Hey guys, this is Jess with Sourceful Journey, back with another video. I had to make sure I turned my television off right here because I didn't want any copyright issues or anything like that. So, in case you guys wonder, I'm gonna cut my nails done a little differently, just more of the square tips. So I switched it up. I want to continue on with the ovals, but so far so good. I actually like it. I always like the square look anyway. Ovals too, I can kind of interchange with, but as long as it was the French look, that was always my go-to. And it did something a little different with the hair, where it's like not much product. You guys probably noticed it's got like a little bit more volume to it. So I kind of just did the typical wash, condition, and blow dry. That's it. But I'm liking it. I might flat iron it. We'll see. But I actually like the look. As far as some of my product that I mentioned to you guys I like to use in terms of moisturizers, things like that, I'm old school with it. So to kind of go back to what I mentioned to you guys in a past video, I think it was like around the week of New Year's Eve. I love Palmer's. So this is like, let me see, my go-to. I'm old school, like I told you guys, so this is the one I use. It's like an actual balm, which you guys probably might have seen it, so it's like that. Amazing stuff. Something simple, but it gets the job done. Keeps your skin moisturized and looking amazing. I don't know about you guys, but for me, when it comes to taking my vitamins, I prefer gummies. Also, I think I just saw it work. That's why I kind of like looked over like that. Sorry about that. As far as outside of gummies for my vitamins, I love Premier Protein. So I want to show it to you guys real quick. These are some of my favorites. I love the, get my face out of it. It's that one, the Cake Batter Delight, and also the Cookies and Cream. They're amazing. But those are my favorite. So actually, I tend to supplement these. I would drink them like in place of a meal, like at least twice or so a day. I'm not really much of a snacker, you know, but hey, to each his own. And if I do, it's you know, particular like seeds or nuts or cranberries, things like that. But other than that, that's kind of like my little tidbit. Yeah, so other than saying, let's go ahead and jump into some other details here. Now, I have to say, I said, again, there I go. So I really appreciated the feedback I received from the last video I put up, you guys. It was amazing. I got quite a bit of responses. A lot of people felt like the video was something that definitely resonated with them, especially what they were enduring for that time, whether it was a few months back or present day. Furthermore, what was interesting, some of you guys called it and I didn't think about it until thereafter. I had a feeling that that's exactly what was going on, but I just didn't think about it until I looked at the video myself and I saw it. So some of you actually have pointed out that the reason why I was probably experiencing the ear ringing is because at that present moment you guys saw orbs flying in my video. And it's so funny because I had a feeling that was what it was. I knew for a fact I wasn't the only one in my little space in my car at the time. You know, as empaths, you know, being able to have that knowing, that feeling, you know, we have those extra senses when we know there's a presence around us. If you guys go back to some of my earlier videos, I do talk about the certain things that I've encountered when I first realized that I was a part of this journey, in terms of what I encountered physically, spiritually, things like that. It's one of my earlier videos. I have it posted on TikTok, but I also have it on my YouTube channel. So you have to scroll through. But to get back to what I was trying to say here, I don't know if you guys realized it, but right after I made that statement, like a few seconds later, I kind of like leaned my head to the side and smiled, because that was my way of like internally letting them know that I know that whoever it was, that they were there. So when I say whoever it was, it could be a family member, it could maybe be a passed on friend, or just simply a spiritual guide that's around you that maybe you haven't seen in the physical form, but you know that they're there to be a support, and that they're just letting you know that what you're doing is the right thing, which for me is to be able to really be able to speak, or to channel, whichever way you want to title it. So when I did go back and look at the video, I did notice the orbs flying, because I kept thinking like, oh, where did that come from? I kept seeing they were like, it was like literally after I made that statement about my ears ringing, and I mentioned how it was going on for some time, and it's been going on for a long time. I'm not talking about just like a few days. I'm talking about for years, and for a lot of us it has been for years. But the intensity of it, and I guess because with this being the year that's aligned with Aquarius, the intensity of it is like really there. But to not digress, I did go back, you guys, and I did see the video with my own pair of eyes, and excluding the glasses, of course. But I did see them flying in there, so now that explains a lot in regards to why I had experienced that ear ringing right at that particular point in the video. It's because I had a presence there. I am so happy that you guys got a chance to witness it. So it's a beautiful thing. I think that for a lot of us who are in this space, when we see that in one another's videos, it's always a nice reminder to know, again, that we are truly never alone. I say that a lot in my other videos. Speaking of which, the other two videos that I titled that we are never alone, those are prime examples. I was going to say that is a prime example, but I forgot it was actually two videos I put up that is pertaining to that notion that we are never alone. So I do have two up from two separate occasions. So it's enough to confirm that notion that we are truly never alone. Now, I wanted to focus on the next topic at hand here, which is really going to be dealing with a quick story time. And yeah, without further ado, we're gonna go ahead and just jump right in. So story time. You guys do recall when I mentioned how when it comes to those who are, in unlucky positions, those who are impoverished, homeless, things of that nature, why some of us feel so compelled to want to help that population. Maybe because it's someone we know of, or we may have experienced it in some form or another as well. Believe it or not, I am one of those individuals. I did, in fact, go through a moment that no one never knew about until now. I actually was once homeless. Interesting story. So, quick story time. At the time, this was like right around the time when I was getting ready to leave a location, and I was getting ready to move to a completely new area. I was trying to get things set up and in order. A completely different side of the country I was planning on moving to. And what was interesting was because for some reason, when I was doing all this stuff as far as applying, trying to get prepared to make this transition, no one was responding. And I kept thinking, like, what's going on? And so, but something had me feeling so compelled, like, you know what? I need to make this move regardless. So if I have something in place, that's fine. But if not, I'm going to go ahead and take a step out on faith and know God is going to have me the rest of the way. And so I did just that. I still had a certain amount of money on me to work with, right? So I remember when I had got there, I actually took a long train ride to my destination. And what's interesting is because in getting there, I knew I had to be smart about what I had left and how to kind of build from there, right? So I was like, I kept thinking, like, I do not want to go in a shelter, because I kept thinking about all the horror stories you hear. And, when you think of people who are in a homeless shelter, you think of those who are, like, sadly enough, not dressed so well. You think of them, the ones that are, like, those who succumb to their vices, to put it nicely, meaning like alcoholism, drugs, things like that. You have all these negative thoughts, and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be surrounded by that. Can I handle it? Without getting into an argument with someone, or God knows what, right? So, I took it upon myself. I had to really dig deep, and I had to understand that this was all a test. And in some way, this was helping to mold me into a better person too, because my misconceptions about those who are within that space of being homeless or impoverished, however you want to title it, they are human too. And, we should never be so quick to take things for face value and assume that what we see on television or what we see walking around on the streets are the only type of individuals that you are going to come across in that setting. That's completely false, and I'll tell you more about that here shortly as well. So I remember I literally had my entire life. I started getting rid of a lot of other stuff before I made the move. I wasn't looking to sell it on a Poshmark or any of these, Marketplace on Facebook. I wasn't looking to do any of that. I was like, no, just giving it out. And then sometimes I just threw it out. I mean, it was nice items, whether it's Michael Kors or other designers, shoes, heels, all my heels. Ooh, heels that I have not even worn. When you buy some stuff because it looks so good online, you're like, ooh, I know I'm gonna wear that at some point this year, but then it's just sitting on your shelf collecting dust. Those type of heels, I just threw them out. I threw them out. And what's funny is because at the time I was struggling with it. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so nice stuff. I knew I had to really dig deep within self, and I had to ask myself, Jessica, do you really plan on wearing any of this stuff anytime soon? I didn't. So I knew at that point I had to mentally suck it up and say, you know what? Suck it up, buttercup. And just go ahead and throw it out. And because I couldn't find anybody who wore my shoe size anyhow at that point in time that was living within my high rise. So make long story short, what happened next? I was able to get everything, my remaining items I wanted to bring with me. I got it all into like this nice luggage. I was like off to the races, as they would say. So to fast forward, once I made it to the state, I think I spent one night in a hotel room. And I remember pulling up my laptop, my good old laptop here, and I started searching. I was looking for shelters within the area and looking at reviews, things like that. So they had so many different shelters, like a plethora of them, whether it was like women and children's shelters, solely women's shelters. They had family shelters. They had men and women's shelters only, things like that. And I was just really amazed. I was like, wow. At the same time, I'm cringing, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm going to have to go through this. So I went through a moment of just like having to pull back and say, you know what? I have to just trust the process. And this is going to only be for just a short moment. 2, 3, 4, as I said that. And I did just that. So I was able to zoom in on one in particular. And they gave you this test run where you could stay for like 3 days. That was an interesting experience. I'll tell you why. So with this particular shelter, I was there for 3 days. It was a men and women's shelter. They also had like a church on site, which was pretty interesting. I wasn't a fan of the setting, and I'll be very direct about that here shortly, in terms of the shelter and what they stood for or stood on in terms of trying to support people in their journey. Okay, so I stayed there for the 3 days. I wasn't so happy about what was served meal-wise, but at the same time, I was able to still go out and get things if I wanted to with the money I still had saved up, right? And then I remember when I first got there, they were wanting me to get rid of the majority of the stuff I had with me. And I'm like, why? I'm like, I might need some of this stuff. Why would I do that? And so they said because there was a certain amount of weight of items you were allowed to bring into the establishment that each person was allowed to bring in. And I thought to myself, I need some time to think about it. So that's why that 3 days came into place, which gave me time to really come to the realization, 1, 2, 3, as I'm saying this, of whether or not I wanted to still stay with them for the long haul or not. So they were able to put my luggage off to the side, and I was still able to take a few items out of things I wanted. But certain things they were saying that I would probably have to get rid of, and they were suggesting that I would get rid of it by donating it to their little store that they had downstairs in the building. So basically donating it and allowing someone else to pick it up. I just felt that was not right, but I was like, okay, you know what? I was going to think about it. Now, fast forward, the morning of, I guess, the last day that I was going to be there. That was day 3. I think that was on a Monday. Yeah, it was a Monday. It was a Monday morning, bright and early. I'll never forget it. I remember hearing about this other shelter, and I said to myself, I said, God, I need you to meet me out here. Because now this other shelter in particular was one of the newer shelters, so it was much more cleaner looking. The meals were way better, of course. The support, the people you came across there was way better. And I remember telling God, I need you to meet me out here. If I'm going to do this, I need you to meet me halfway. And it helped me to get in that day, because the way they approached it at the second shelter, it was more of like a lottery type deal. So there was a huge chance that I would not get accepted. This is where it gets interesting. So what I did instead, I took a ride share, I guess, or what they call it. Like was Uber or Lyft. I took that over there, right? And I stood in line with my luggage because at this point I told them people that like, no, I'm not going to stay here with you guys. I do not feel comfortable leaving my stuff or getting rid of majority of my stuff, and I'm just going to go look at this other one instead. So we severed ties at that point. And I told them I did want to thank them for the time that I did get a chance to see if this place would be for me, and we parted ways in a nice way. So fast forward, I was standing in line. It was like maybe 6 something in the morning. There was a few other people already there, and they looked like they probably were returning residents, if you will. So I'm standing there, I'm looking green as I don't know what. Green. And so they knew, oh, she's not from around here. And, they were kind of surprised, like, how I ended up there. And I was like, you might want to have a seat for this one. And so everyone that heard my story and why it happened, which the reason was because of the timing factor, as far as things being lined up for me to get to start working when moving into this particular state, because people were seeing that I had a address that was a part of the original state I was in, and they didn't realize I was actually in the process of moving to that state, which in turn they might have thought that, oh, she was just applying online and may have made a mistake, rather than thinking like, oh, this young lady could possibly be in the process of moving to this state, which is why she's applying to our company. So when I tell people the story, they're like, oh, that makes perfect sense, because you don't look like you belong here. in a sweet way, of course. That's what they meant by that. And so which I truly appreciated that that's that was very nice for them to say that. So fast forward, I go in, sitting there. You could tell some of the people that were working there, they kind of knew like, who's this girl? And so I got called in, told them my story, and they were like, oh, okay. And I was like, this is my first time going through this. I just need to have the great support and guidance in getting through this. I said this was not a part of my original plan, and give them the whole roll down of what happened and why I was in that scenario at the moment. So by the grace of God, I was able to get into that shelter that day. And that was just a simple walk up, taking a step out on faith and say, you know what? I just need you to meet me there. God, just meet me there so I can at least get into this place. Because at that point, if I would have showed up for that little lottery, and if I didn't get a number or get the okay to stay, I would have been like maybe having to go back to that other shelter or something. So, taking it a step further, I got settled in. They allowed me to bring my luggage in, and what was funny was because that was a breath of fresh air for me, because some of the things that they were saying at the initial shelter that I would have had to get rid of was like my laptop, or else I would have had to pay a certain fee per month just to keep my laptop on site. Yes, you heard me correctly. So even if you were someone who was homeless, and let's say you needed your laptop to apply for work, and let's say you didn't even have a job lined up, you actually, to even be able to store your laptop on site, they were charging you a monthly fee. Not to mention, there was no Wi-Fi. So you would have to go to like their local library and get one of these hot spots, I guess they call it. And you had to pay a fee for that too. So in one way or another, there was always a fee involved. So we're going to talk about that part later down the line. I'm going to keep going forward with this story. So, I got settled in at the new shelter, right? And I was really amazed at how clean and neat it looked. Amazed at the type of people that were in there. I'm like, wow, this is really different than what I thought. I mean, there were so many different people from all walks of life, ethnic backgrounds, age ranges. I mean, of course, all adults. But you could tell some people who were maybe like recovering addicts. You can kind of see a few of those sprinkled in there. But you saw a lot of those who looked like your everyday Joe or Jane. And, I'm like, wow. Oh my God. There's some people, and there were some that were even close to my age that were, you would look at them, you would never even know that they are living in a shelter as well. And so I remember we would sometimes have these conversations like, hey, how did you get in here? And we would just laugh about like, wait, how did you get in here? Tell me your story. And then a lot of us, especially those who were within the younger age group, it was similar predicaments. Like, oh, I just relocated here, but the timing was off, or, things like that. It's like, really? That's my story. And so it just further proves the point that you just never know. You never know what people are going through behind the scenes. And just know that it's for a fleeting period. It's not anything that's going to be for the long haul. Now, one thing I did also while being there, because I make a joke about this. I remember when I was working in the original state I moved from, I was so consumed with work. And I love what I do. I mean, it was a phenomenal company. Pay was amazing. And I loved some of the people I worked with, except, I felt like some of them actually, I could have just kind of like kept my distance with, because I just felt like their vibe, their whole energy was just off. But not to even focus on that. But I remember during the time when I was working that job, I would tell myself, like, you know what, if I had the opportunity to do more volunteering work at a shelter, I would be so happy to do that. And I remember I used to always feel so bad because I didn't really have the time to, because I was so consumed with work and everything else around it when I was off work. And it's so funny because I kind of laugh at it now, like maybe that was God's way of answering my prayer, because I actually had gotten a chance to actually be able to help more within that very shelter that I was living in. So when it came to like serving meals or anything else, I think it was mainly serving meals, or I help people with like their resumes. So I did little things like that. What else? When it came to setting up, I think in terms of, oh yeah, just like with donations in general. So some of the stuff that I did bring with me initially in my luggage, some of the items I did end up letting go, because I was just like, okay, I'm not gonna wear this either. It was one of those things, it was kind of like shedding of old skin in some way. It was like as time progressed onward, I knew certain items, I'm like, I'm not gonna wear this again. So I was like, let me see if I can find someone who might want it. And so I did just that. Also, one thing I really appreciated since being in that shelter at the time was that I came across other individuals who were like-minded, those who were, of course, spiritual as well, and who were very much aware of self. That was a beautiful thing. And interesting enough, I think my entire space that I was in, I was surrounded by those very individuals. So we would have conversations and things like that, and talk about our certain oils and our certain the certain stones we like, things like that. It was a beautiful thing. And what was pretty cool, because there was like two of us, I think two of us that were vegetarians. So we were very excited about that. So we were always talking about going to like a farmer's market or something like that, just to go get, fruits and veggies. I used to rave about my mangoes, I love my mangoes. But it's those good things. And what was interesting too, because a lot of times, like if it was like an off day or something, we would go like maybe, head to a park or something. Or else like a museum, just to kind of get away from the location and just like have a good day. And just create like good memories with people, with like-minded individuals. That's something that I would truly never forget. So once I did that, I remember, oh, not to mention this second shelter that I moved into, and I got right away, that same day, I had, I think it was the second week I was there. That's when I started back applying for work. Now, it was interesting because I now had an actual address that I can utilize to show that I'm actually within the state. And lo and behold, once those employers start seeing that information, they saw the actual address that I had on there, the responses were flying in like crazy. Like, oh, now that I'm in this state, you guys are now responding to me. You see my credentials and everything now, but it was the state issue. And it was so funny because someone actually made a statement about that. They were like, oh, when we saw your app, we thought everything was amazing, but we just saw that you were in another state and we thought that was probably a mistake. And I'm like, no. I was waiting for somebody to call me so I could explain to them what I was planning on doing. And so we kind of like laughed about it. I said, but it's okay now. And so to make a long story short, the responses were coming like crazy. Actually, for quite a few of those establishments, I had to turn down the offers. I did choose one, but the other ones I had to turn them down. But that felt pretty good. Like, oh, because now they see the work. They're like, oh, this person got the type of background. Let's reach out to her. And and she's in our state now. So that made me feel really good going through that process. But I ended up getting the job that I wanted. And so that's when things took off from there. So that whole duration, the amount of time that I was actually in the shelter was for about, I would say 2 months, 6 months, 6 weeks. I think 6 weeks to 2 months. No, I think it was 6 weeks. 6 weeks, yeah. So, and those weeks went by pretty quick. So when leaving, I was happy about being able to move on to the next stage of my journey, but I did feel a little sad, as some of the ladies did too. They used to joke about me. They used to call me like Michelle Obama. They would call me Michelle Obama. It was only because, or they'll make a joke about me being Mrs. Someone Else because of how I carried myself, like how I dress, things like that. Those of you who knew me and who currently know me now, this is pretty casual for me, but I tend to, like, when I say I like to dress, honey. I mean, like, everything has to match. If the shoes are a certain leather material, the purse needs to be just that. I'm always a skirt girl. I still am a skirt girl. Dresses, okay. But I am that lady. And but then if I'm like relaxing, like I'm relaxing my space now talking to you guys, I tend to just wear like leggings and like a bit of a loose top. Like, no big deal. Just chilling right now with you guys. But when I step out, trust and believe I make it happen. But yeah, kind of thinking back to that. They used to always joke about me. They were like, oh, here's Mrs. Obama coming in. Here comes Michelle. And it'd be so loud. I'd be so embarrassed. Like, stop that. And then someone made a statement like, I think she works for the government. She's got to be undercover. There's no way that she carries herself like this, and yet she's here with us. So I would laugh. I'm like, no, I'm here. But you already know my story for why, and we just kind of like laugh about it. And they all knew. We kind of like all share stories about how we got there, and each individual story was different, but there was no judgment. It was nothing but love. And those are some memories that I will truly never forget. I say all this to say, even when going through that experience, I still went in with a humble mindset in my soul. The heart was always right. See, people need to understand that even when being that type of individual, when you go through those tests, it's to test you further to see where you are in terms of your spiritual, to see if you truly are built for this or not. See, so many people can do so much talking. I did this, I did that, blah, blah, blah. Or they like to show what they are giving people, such as like some of these videos we have on social media, such as YouTube, TikTok, whatever, where you see people are handing out hundreds of dollars and they're recording, doing the act, right? Again, like I said, don't be that person. You know, it's one thing to do that, but it's another when you do it with true intention with the camera off. So even during the times where I was still in that shelter, but yeah, I was still servicing, meaning like I still did things as far as helping out with any of the events they had on site, or also with helping to serve food or whatever the case may be. And it's so funny because even doing that, people are like, always, I always look forward to your smile, and that always used to brighten my day. Those little things, it was just exchanging such good energy, you know. It's those type of things when you still can say, even in the midst of it all, even though I'm in a predicament right now that is not the predicament that I wanted, but I know I'm being tested for a reason, I need to get through this thing, and you still do it with a pure heart, and you still do it with a smile on your face, knowing that this is going to only be a short stint. It'll be over before you know it. God smiles at that, because he knows that tells him that even through the midst of it all, you still didn't lose faith in me. Even through the midst of it all, you still didn't lose faith in the spiritual team. Even through all of that, you still are aligned with the plan. We must not lose sight of that. Whenever a monkey wrench is being thrown into whatever we may have lined up or want to have lined up in our life, don't take that as if, oh, God has forgotten about me, or oh, God is punishing me. No, he's not. He's not. It's not always the case. There are some cases when you do certain acts that you will end up getting those results, but there's also other cases where it's just simply just that. As I mentioned in my previous video, a test. And if you excel and you pass it, then kudos for you. If you don't, you know what follows next. If anything, for me, it built character. It definitely opened my eyes quite a bit in terms of like all the individuals that are going into these shelters are not like what we see in the movies, right? Furthermore, it did give me the opportunity to be able to do more work in terms of service that I prayed on when I was working that other job that I couldn't find the time to do. So in some way, God was like, okay, that's what you want. I'm going to give it to you this way. And I laugh about that to this day because it's like he did truly answer my prayer. And looking back at it, I don't regret any of it. You know, and that's why I said it was fleeting, because it was only for like about 6 weeks. I don't even know if it was full 6 weeks. It could have been 5 or 6 weeks, but I know it was 6 at most. But yet, that right there goes just like that. And I was out of the situation. And it was all because of the address scenario in regards to me being in another state. Just that simple. It wasn't anything like, oh, this person lost money. Oh, everybody left this person alone. Oh, this person became a drug addict. Oh, this person did this, did that. Blah, blah, freaking blah. It was none of that. It was a test. And apparently, I passed it with flying colors. And now, I'm sitting where I'm at right now. Being in my own space again. Just doing something more now with what I love, such as talking to you guys here in terms of social media. And continue to push forward. And to do so with wanting to be more connected with those who are like-minded and not with those who are karmic. I found that once I've actually severed those ties with those individuals as well, and I really started to connect with other like-minded individuals, that's when things started to move, and it moved quick, as I mentioned in the previous video. A lot of times God puts you in an uncomfortable situation just so you can begin to reevaluate everything around you, to find out what truly matters and what does not, who truly should be sitting at your table and who should not be. A lot of times we want to be able to bring people with us, and not realizing that those individuals, whoever it may not be the ones that God wants to sit at the table with you. Maybe it's because whatever He has planned for you, He doesn't want them to reap any of the benefits. So, and a lot of times we have such a tight grip and want us to take these people with us, but yet we fail to realize that God sees it all. He sees things on a deeper level, and also what happens behind the scenes that we are not even privy to as individuals here. So in my opinion, that was God's way of removing me out of the equation, just so I can become aware of self more, but at the same time become aware of how I can connect with others who are like-minded, who are going along in their journeys as well, and build great bonds with them, and still, other than that, still continue to push forward. And looking back at all of this hindsight, I don't regret any of it, and I am still forever grateful and thankful that He took me through all of it, and I just saw the orher. It's so funny when that happens. It really is. I just saw the orher. But I ask that you guys do the same on your journey. When you are being put in a bit of a predicament where you're like, oh my gosh, I'm getting ready to lose my place, or oh my gosh, I'm getting ready to lose my vehicle, or oh my gosh, I'm getting ready to lose my job, or whatever the case may be, whatever the hardship that you get ready to encounter, it's a test, because God knows He knows what makes us happy, but He knows what our fears are too. And He wants to know, when going through those scenarios, enduring those fears, are we going to lose sight of Him? Are we going to lose sight of the plan that He has set up for us? And at the end of the day, as long as if you don't lose sight, you remain laser focused, right? And you don't let your faith waver. You stay on point with that, and understand that this is all a test. And keep in mind, at the end of it all, you're going to be looking back on it and being like, why did they even worry about that when this was already figured out? Remember, God had already had all this stuff in place, again, even down to the test, right? So, do you understand? At the end of the day, you have to change your thought process when it comes to how to execute. That's the only reason for a lot of us why we are going through these tests, is because it changes our thought process, so we're aware of how to execute, so we can move on to the next step. Outside of course, breaking generational curses and things like that. But yeah, that's a given too. Can't forget that part. But outside of all of it, it's just a test. It's a test. And once you ace that puppy, you're on to the next, which is going to be much bigger and better than that word you had about a few weeks ago or a month ago. Oh, actually, I wanted to go back to what I was talking about in regards to that first shelter that I wish that other shelters would consider doing as well. In regards to the system they have there, they say that it's to help those individuals get back on their feet, right? But the way they do it, they have it where in some way or another it hinders them from really being able to grow financially. Meaning, these individuals are able to go out and work, but they're only allowed to work a certain amount of hours per week. Not only that, it was something else. Oh, you have to I gotta say, you have to dedicate a certain amount of time to doing work in terms of the shelter too, which actually is not such a bad thing. It's just like if you had to do chores, things like that. Those of you who ever lived in a shelter also, or whatever, if you know, you know. And those type of things are pretty typical. No, it's not a big issue. It's no surprise there. But when it comes to the whole thing with them only being allowed to work a certain amount of hours, and these were part-time hours, that's an issue, because in a sense you're holding an individual in a dormant position. You're not really allowing them to grow. Furthermore, how is it that you can have an establishment like that, a shelter like that, and you guys do not allow individuals to use the Wi-Fi, to be able to get on their devices, to be able to be proactive when it comes to looking for work or looking for a place to stay or any of that? How is that truly helping them as a collective there when you restrict them in that fashion? It does not make sense to me at all. I would just pray for the day that these other shelters start to break out of that and they actually do truly focus on helping people, not holding them back because they're trying to get a check from the government. And that was all that I wanted to add about that first shelter. But the sad thing about it, I know there's a lot of other shelters that do the same. But the second one I went to, they did amazing. I would hope that others would follow their model and apply it accordingly. Because again, looking back at it in hindsight, I told myself that if I ever came across any individuals who I think could really benefit from going into a place like that, and if they live in that state, I would definitely make sure to pass that information along to them, so that you might want to go to this shelter instead, because it's amazing. Yeah, overall the experience was amazing. It was like an eye-opening one, but at the same time, it's something that I would never forget. And I would hope that my story could help others to understand that, hey, it's nothing to be ashamed of. We all came from different walks of life. And kind of go back to that video I made a few weeks back. Don't be ashamed of your battle scars, because the very things that you've been through in your life is what builds you, what makes you who you are as an individual. You know, it's funny because I've only shared this story with a few people, I think maybe 2 or 3 people, and now I'm sharing it with you guys. And the other 2 or 3 people were like, "You were in the shelter?" I was like, "Yep, I was in the shelter. I did. I went through that." You know, and it's so funny because, of course, now me having the car that I have as well, which I love that. Love that car. But prior to that, I didn't have a car either. I actually was doing the whole thing with getting on the train and jumping on the bus and having my my pass, you know, like you know, the bus pass or whatever. You know, I had all of that. You know, there was for 1 month I was actually on the fence about continue further. You know, like when you have like the government assistance, I think they call it, like, you know how to give you like those cards and then you can use it to buy like food and things like that. They call them different names in different states or whatever, but I had one of those too, but I only used it for 1 month. And that was interesting because I remember how I felt about it. Like when I initially had used it, I was like, oh, this is so like odd, you know, but it was something they offered and I was like, why would I turn it down? You know, and, you know, looking back at the hindsight, I'm glad I got a chance to use it. When I got a chance to use it, because I racked up, got some good food and drinks. You guys know, any of those who had those cards with that you use to get like food and things at the, you know, each month from the government. You know, if you know, you know. But I used to go to it was like the 7-Elevens and all that, or Walgreens, you know, all these little stores, and just like rack up and stuff. And then I would be ready to go ahead and jump on the train, things like that, or, you know, get to the bus, whatever. But I've been through that whole experience too. No shame. But at the same time, I met some amazing people along the way. And I would not trade that experience for the world. Even thinking about it now, it puts a smile on my face like, wow, I can't believe I've been today. Granted, it was only for a few weeks, but those few weeks was very impressionable for sure. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you guys haven't done so already. I am thinking this week, because wait, today is Thursday. Tomorrow I'm booked. Friday is completely booked out. It's always when it gets closer to the end of the week where it gets booked, which is not surprising. You guys may have heard me talk about that in other videos too. I think if you check the calendar, I believe Tuesday, because Monday is booked too. I know I checked that earlier, but Tuesday I should be pretty open. So if it is something that does interest you and you would like to have a consultation, you can definitely book me in my calendar. If you have any issues with it, message me. I do respond. You can message me on Instagram, TikTok, emails as well. I still get those emails, which I do love that. Keep that going, you guys. Also, what else? Oh, yes. For those of you who are just joining the family, hi, I do see you. See you guys are joining my other pages as well. You know, I do also speak publicly, meaning like I speak to large groups, whether it's with, you know, doing presentations or more so like keynote speaking, motivational speaking, things like that. I'm more in that realm. That's my field house. So if it is something that you would like to arrange, like your organization would like for me to maybe come and speak at their events, things of that nature, we can definitely get that set up. But we need to go over the details, of course. You know, business is business, of course. But yeah, definitely you can reach out to me and we can then go through those details accordingly. But outside of that, I do want to let you guys know that I do truly love you all. And again, welcome to the newcomers to my pages here. I do see you guys and appreciate you. I do get the little notifications when people join. Or also get like responses again about that past video, which I love the responses. Keep those coming. But as always, I am definitely sending you guys with love and light. And I will see you in the next video. Bless you guys.